America's darkest legend. Everything about the men in black vertical bar, monsters and mysteries. For decades, stories have swirled about shadowy figures known only as the Men in Black. Eerie visitors who arrive in the wake of UFO sightings, paranormal events, and unexplained phenomena. These stories, often dismissed as conspiracy or myth, reveal a chilling consistency across time, culture, and geography. In this video, we delve deep into the horrifying truth behind the Men in Black, most notorious encounters, psychological impacts, and the lingering questions that make them one of the greatest unsolved enigmas of our time. If you're fascinated by hidden truths and mysterious forces like the Men in Black, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world's darkest legends. The mysterious figures known as the Men in Black, MIB, have long haunted the periphery of UFO lore and paranormal investigations. Often caricatured in popular culture as wisecracking secret agents in black suits, the real accounts of Men in Black encounters reveal a profoundly different and far more sinister presence. People who've seen these beings often say they feel strangely unnatural, not just mysterious or powerful, but deeply wrong in a way that's hard to put into words.
I served the United States government as a top secret operative, but not in a category that is commonly known or understood. I was known as a Man in Black. Following 7 years acting as a counterintelligence agent for the CIA, I was recruited for a new assignment that entailed working within above top secret operations. I was aware of the black budget projects, but never knew the context of them due to their high level of secrecy. Even the president was denied access to their inner workings.
Men in Black are said to arrive without warning, often within hours or even minutes of a UFO sighting or paranormal event. Witnesses report that they move with mechanical precision, speak with flat, robotic cadence, and display behavior that feels like a clumsy imitation of humanity, as though they are learning to act human by observing us. Some have been described as blinking too infrequently, speaking in outdated phrases, or misunderstanding simple social cues. Their skin is often reported as unnaturally pale, waxy, or even plastic-like, and their eyes can appear oversized, bulging, or completely devoid of life. These details contribute to a chilling impression. The MIB are not human, or at least not convincingly so. Their consistent wardrobe, a black suit, white shirt, thin black tie, and fedora hat, adds to their strange uniformity. But also rise question, why are they always dressed this way, even decades after the style faded from normal use? Some speculate that this deliberate fashion choice is meant to invoke authority, intimidation, or to disguise their true nature beneath a cloak of officialdom. Theories about their origin vary widely. The most conventional theory suggests that MIB are government agents from classified departments tasked with covering up extraterrestrial contact. However, this fails to explain their telepathic abilities, disappearing acts, and their ability to know personal details about witnesses who never went public. Another theory posits that they are extraterrestrials, perhaps biological androids or drones of alien intelligence, sent to manage Earth's growing awareness of UFO phenomena. This aligns with their strange physical features and apparent access to advanced technology. More metaphysical interpretations suggest they are interdimensional entities, visitors from alternate realities who police the boundaries of human knowledge. This could explain their ability to phase in and out of existence and to appear moments after a sighting occurs without any visible means of transport. but perhaps the most chilling theory comes from religious scholars and spiritual researchers, that the men in black are demonic in origin. Some equate them to fallen angels, demonic watchers, or ancient evil spirits taking physical form to suppress knowledge that could awaken humanity. Their presence induces fear, confusion, and despair. Emotional states often associated with demonic influence in spiritual tradition, whatever their true origin. One thing is universally agreed upon by those who have encountered them. The men in black are not merely observers, they are enforcers, intent on silencing those who come too close to forbidden truths. The men in black phenomenon first emerged into public consciousness in 1947, coinciding with the explosion of UFO sightings that swept the United States in the aftermath of World War II. The earliest well-documented case occurred during the Puget Sound incident in Washington state, involving Harold Dahl and Fred Krisman. The two men claimed to have witnessed 6 flying, donut-shaped objects over the harbour. One of the objects allegedly ejected strange metallic debris, some of which injured Dahl's son and killed their dog. When Dahl reported the incident, he was soon visited by a man dressed in a black suit who warned him, in no uncertain terms, to never speak of what he had seen. The visitor also demonstrated uncanny knowledge of details Dahl had not disclosed publicly, deeply unsettling him. This encounter became the archetype of what would become a disturbingly familiar pattern, a UFO sighting, followed almost immediately by an intimidating visit from mysterious men in black who seek to discredit confiscate evidence, or threaten witnesses into silence. These visitors rarely provide credentials, yet possess startling authority and knowledge. The encounter left such a lasting impression that the FBI later investigated it, although their conclusions were inconclusive. By the 1970s, the Men in Black phenomenon had evolved into a more widespread and sophisticated operation. In Pennsylvania, a dramatic increase in UFO sightings, referred to as a UFO flap, led to dozens of credible reports being filed across the state. Stan Gordon, a respected UFO researcher, became deeply involved in investigating these events. What he discovered was far more disturbing than simple lights in the sky. Witnesses reported being approached by individuals dressed in black suits who posed as researchers, police officers, or government agents, yet never returned or followed up after seizing evidence such as photographs, samples, or personal testimonies.
And they just stand there, they cannot believe what they're seeing, and they're watching this thing, and then their attention is drawn about 75 feet away to a barbed wire fence. And along that fence are these 2 tall, hair-covered creatures. The one in front's about 8 feet tall, the other one's about 7 feet tall, long dark hair hanging off the body, no neck, the arms are so long they're hanging down past the knees almost to the ground. They have luminous, glowing green eyes and are making these baby crying sounds.
In one notable case, a young boy who had taken Polaroid pictures of strange footprints was confronted by a man in black who destroyed the photos on the spot, claiming they were of no importance. The stranger then vanished without explanation. These incidents often occurred before the witnesses had told anyone about their experiences, leading researchers to speculate that the men in black were either psychic, technologically advanced, or something else entirely, with access to a level of surveillance far beyond human means, across both the 1940s and the 1970s. The core elements remained consistent: fear, inducing appearances, untraceable identities, mysterious disappearances, and the ongoing suppression of information. These patterns reinforce the idea that the men in black are not merely observers, but agents of an active and global force, Determined to control the narrative surrounding extraterrestrial phenomena, among the many enigmatic figures associated with the Men in Black phenomenon, Indrid Cold stands out as one of the most chilling and deeply personal cases ever recorded. His story begins on the night of the 2nd of November, 1966, when Woody Derenberger, a sewing machine salesman from Mineral Wells, West Virginia, was driving home on Interstate 77. Suddenly, a metallic, cigar-shaped craft descended and forced his vehicle to a halt. From this craft emerged a tall, thin man dressed in a shiny blue suit and black coat, with an unsettlingly broad, fixed grin plastered across his face. What made Indrid Cold unlike traditional MIB figures was his telepathic communication. Woody reported that Cold never moved his lips, yet spoke directly into his mind, asking questions about his work, his family, and the surrounding area. He introduced himself as a searcher and told Woody not to be afraid. Cold claimed he came from a place called Lanulos, a distant planet in another galaxy, and said that humans would come to understand his purpose in time. Before leaving, he promised, "We will see you again." That promise was kept. What followed was a years-long relationship between the Derenberger family and this mysterious entity. Woody's life changed irrevocably. He became reclusive, publicly ridiculed, and deeply paranoid. He began exhibiting what his family described as extrasensory perception, ESP. He could intuitively know his wife's whereabouts, her shopping choices, and details about people he had not met. His daughter, Tanya Derenberger, recounted that Indrid Cold and others like him began showing up at their home. These uninvited visits created a climate of constant anxiety. Tanya wasn't even allowed to play outside because of the frequent presence of strangers in black clothing, often appearing and vanishing without explanation. Cold's persistent grin, eerily calm demeanor, and repeated contact suggest he was not simply a passerby, but a deliberate observer, perhaps even a manipulator. Unlike most MIB, who appear once and vanish, Cold inserted himself into Woody's life, blurring the boundary between alien contact and possession. Some researchers have theorized that Cold was not extraterrestrial at all, but a demonic entity masquerading as a benevolent scout, an agent of deeper cosmic deception. His interactions revealed a terrifying new dimension of the MIB phenomenon, targeted psychological intrusion. Cold wasn't just suppressing information, he was embedding himself into human lives, monitoring, influencing, and haunting them long after the original encounter. The case of Indrid Cold remains one of the most bizarre and frightening in UFO history, where the Men in Black stop being watchers from the shadows and instead become invaders of the mind and soul. The Indrid Cold case is not just a UFO story, it's a psychological and spiritual enigma that touches on themes of identity, surveillance, reality, manipulation, and cosmic deception. What makes Cold's interactions uniquely disturbing is the inversion of human expectations. Instead of violence or abduction, Cold offered polite conversation, eerie familiarity, and emotional infiltration. But beneath his calming words and broad grin lay an unspoken threat, one that would unravel Woody Derenberger's sense of reality and alter his family's life permanently. Following the initial encounter in 1966, Derenberger became a local and national curiosity. He appeared on television interviews, underwent polygraph testing, and spoke at length with investigators from Project Blue Book and other civilian UFO research groups. Despite the ridicule he faced, he never deviated from his story. In fact, over time, the details only grew more intricate. Woody claimed he was not only frequently visited by Indrid Cold, but also transported to the planet Lanulos, a place he described as peaceful and utopian, inhabited by beings similar to humans but free from war, poverty, and hatred. While these details seem almost like science fiction, Derenberger's daughter Tanya later supported many of his claims. In interviews and her writings, she revealed that multiple Lanulosians came to visit their home in Parkersburg, West Virginia, sometimes dressed in human clothing, sometimes appearing abruptly inside the house with no warning, and occasionally speaking in languages no one understood. Cold himself, she insisted, had become a shadow figure in their lives, sometimes protective, sometimes unnerving. While the men in black, MIB, are often feared for their ominous appearance and veiled threats, their most terrifying weapon is psychological warfare. Victims of MIB encounters consistently report not just being scared, but also being shattered. These experiences leave them with lingering mental distress, confusion, and emotional trauma that sometimes last for years or even decades. The tactics used by these mysterious figures appear to be surgically designed to disorient, irasi, and manipulate the minds of those who come too close to forbidden knowledge. A common element reported in encounters is the sudden onset of physical symptoms in the presence of MIB figures. Witnesses have described feeling crippling fear, sulpalusis, náusea, difficulty breathing, and, in some cases, an overwhelming sense of dread that seems to emanate from the visitors themselves rather than the situation. These symptoms arise even in individuals with no history of anxiety or trauma, leading many to believe the MIB uses non-verbal psychic influence or some form of paranormal pressure to subdue their targets. Another recurring element is mysterious surveillance. Witnesses who never told a soul about their UFO or paranormal experience soon begin receiving phone calls from strangers, are followed by unmarked cars, or find signs that their homes have been entered without force. These encounters suggest either access to highly advanced surveillance technology or a supernatural omniscience that defies explanation. In many cases, the men in black arrive with specific knowledge of the event, including what was seen, when, and where, details that even close friends or family were unaware of. Memory manipulation is perhaps the most insidious tactic of all. Witnesses report being told that what they saw was a weather balloon, a dream, or classified military technology. In more disturbing cases, victims believe they were subjected to hypnosis, often without consent or awareness. One well-known case involved Steve Geiger, a farmer from Pennsylvania who, in 1973, encountered giant humanoid beings near a glowing red UFO. Days later, he was approached by two men, one in black, the other in military attire, who insisted he had already been hypnotized, though he had no recollection of such a session. This bizarre gaslighting deeply traumatized him and blurred the lines between memory and manipulation. Witnesses often describe evidence being confiscated or destroyed, photographs burned, soil samples taken, and physical traces erased. In some cases, individuals feel they are being mentally rewired, as if their perception of reality itself has been tampered with. The MIB doesn't just silence with threats, they invade the mind, sowing doubt, confusion, and fear. What's most disturbing is that many of these witnesses were ordinary people, farmers, police officers, and children who never sought attention and had no reason to fabricate such tales. Their experiences suggest the men in black are not merely silencing witnesses, but actively reshaping their reality, leaving them haunted by a presence that vanishes as suddenly as it arrives. While the men in black, MIB, are often discussed within the framework of alien encounters or government conspiracies, a growing number of researchers argue that their origins may lie in something far older and far darker than the demonic realm. One of the most compelling voices in this camp is Reverend Dr. Ray Bosch, an ordained minister and paranormal investigator who has studied the MIB phenomenon for decades. According to Bosch, some encounters with MIB go well beyond the limits of physical intimidation or psychological manipulation. They exude a spiritual malevolence, a palpable sense of evil that leaves witnesses emotionally scarred and spiritually shaken. Bosch describes one such encounter that took place in 1987, when he and two colleagues were examining files on MIB incidents. As they sat at a long table sorting through the evidence, they were suddenly overcome by a simultaneous wave of dread and terror. This oppressive, paralyzing fear left them momentarily immobilized. All three men reported feeling the same thing at the same time, a sensation so intense and overwhelming that it could not be attributed to suggestion or coincidence. Boche would later describe it as a brush with pure evil, a manifestation of something non-human that had become aware of their investigation and had chosen to make its presence known. This theory is reinforced by the chilling testimony of Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a respected psychiatrist who was researching hypnosis and UFO abduction cases. One of the most infamous MIB encounters ever recorded. Hopkins was visited by a pale, expressionless man in a black suit. The man issued an ultimatum: destroy all your records or suffer the consequences. To make his point clear, the MIB instructed Hopkins to look at a coin in his hand, then made it disappear before his eyes, a feat he could not explain. The MIB then coldly warned that if Hopkins did not comply, his heart would disappear, just like the coin. Terrified, Hopkins burned all of his research and withdrew from public life. Such stories are startlingly consistent across decades and geographic locations. The MIB appear with the same haunting uniformity: black suits, lifeless faces, robotic voice, and issue the same grim threats: silence, forget, or face annihilation. The idea that these are simply misunderstood government agents or alien enforcers becomes difficult to maintain when one considers the paranormal features: telepathic communication, supernatural vanishing, and intense spiritual oppression reported by countless witnesses. These experiences suggest the MIB may be part of an ancient, coordinated force of deception and control, one that predates modern UFO culture and has been interfering with humanity under various guises for generations, whether as demonic entities, fallen angels, or spiritual elements. The men in black appear to operate not just in the shadows of human society, but in the spiritual shadows of reality itself. They are not merely suppressors of truth, they are like guards of the universe's rules, always standing in the way of humans who can't help but want to explore the unknown. Contrary to the belief that the men in black, MIB, are relics of Cold War paranoia or 20th century UFO folklore, reports of their activities have not only persisted into the modern era, in many cases have become even more chilling with the rise of digital technology, smartphones, and increased awareness of surveillance. Documenting the MIB would become easier, yet disturbingly, the opposite appears to be true. These entities seem capable of interfering with technology, manipulating perception, and erasing evidence, leaving behind only terror and confusion. One particularly unnerving modern case comes from Clyde Lewis, a host of the popular paranormal radio show Ground Zero. In a well-publicized encounter, Lewis claimed he saw a suspicious man in black clothing standing near his studio after a controversial broadcast. The figure was pale, expressionless, and wore the trademark black suit and hat. When Lewis attempted to take a photo with his phone, the image came out completely blank, as if the man had not been there at all. Despite being only a few feet away, the figure vanished moments later, leaving Lewis deeply disturbed. The experience raises profound questions about the nature of the MIB. How could someone be visible to the human eye, but completely undetectable by a camera? Are they using advanced cloaking technology? Or is their very existence interdimensional? Slipping between many modern victims report similar experiences. One of the most common and alarming themes is that MIBs show up even when a UFO encounter hasn't been made public. People who have told no one, no police, no media, not even family, find themselves being watched, followed, or threatened. This suggests that the MIB has access to non-physical surveillance capabilities, possibly telepathic, technological, or supernatural in nature. Victims have reported phone tapping, distorted voices on the line, and phantom calls that end abruptly. Others say they find their homes mysteriously disturbed, with hard drives wiped, files corrupted, or notes and evidence missing without any signs of a break-in. These patterns point to an organized campaign not just to frighten individuals, but to suppress knowledge itself. Witnesses describe feeling constantly surveilled, not just by one person, but by a looming, unseen force. Some researchers believe this is intentional psychological dismantling as a weapon, used to ensure silence without having to resort to violence. You saw something you weren't supposed to see, and now you must forget. Their mission is clear: silence the witnesses, erase the evidence, and maintain the veil between humanity and the unknown. And in the 21st century, they appear to be more efficient and terrifying than ever, as reports of Men in Black, MIB, encounters continue to surface around the globe, from remote farms to bustling cities, from solitary witnesses to groups of observers. Their mysterious presence has drawn increasing public and scholarly interest. Despite this, the U.S. government has consistently and unequivocally denied any involvement with these entities. Official records either downplay the phenomenon or dismiss it entirely as hoaxes, psychological anomalies, or misidentifications. But this very absence of acknowledgement, in the face of such consistent and credible testimonies, has only deepened the enigma surrounding the MIB. If the Men in Black are not agents of a shadowy government agency, then who or what are they? The theories attempting to answer this question range from the scientific to the metaphysical, from plausible to deeply unsettling. One prominent theory is that MIB are extraterrestrial beings, or perhaps advanced artificial entities created by alien civilizations. Their presence might be part of a cosmic security protocol, a system to ensure that human beings do not discover or reveal too much too soon. According to this view, MIB functions as interstellar enforcers, ensuring secrecy about alien visitations, abductions, and technologies that could destabilize human society if exposed prematurely. Ryan Wood said,
Eddie Laxton. So Eddie comes around the corner and sees a man in front of a craft. And he gets out of his car, walks over, and the man sees him and gets back in his craft and takes off. But a man with a cap with English letters writing on it, and numbers TL197 are written on the side of the craft. And then here's this low.
Another theory posits that MIB are time travelers from the distant future. These entities may be tasked with preserving the timeline, ensuring that pivotal events unfold without disruption. In this model, UFO sightings or alien encounters might risk changing the course of history, and the MIB intervenes to neutralize those threats by silencing or confusing witnesses before they can share their experiences broadly. Ryan Wood said,
Absolutely, there's got to be an ET race that specializes in emerging planets like ours.
It's just interesting, though, looking at like what we view as, say, of the era, the smartest person, like an Einstein, speculating on these things. And obviously among us, like, he's so smart, but even his ability to speculate as a human being bound here.
Then there is the darker hypothesis that MIB are not extraterrestrial or temporal at all, but demonic or supernatural in origin. Researchers like Reverend Dr. Ray Boach and others have argued that the palpable sense of dread, psychic disturbance, and spiritual corruption reported by many witnesses is indicative of non-human evil. In this view, the MIB are predators of fear, sentinels of chaos, whose mission is to feed off the trauma they create, or to suppress truths that challenge accepted worldviews and spiritual beliefs. A fourth possibility is that the men in black are watchers, entities whose duty is to observe and manage human consciousness. These beings may not be evil in the traditional sense, but rather part of a cosmic bureaucracy, one that controls the pace of human evolution, intervening only when someone glimpses a truth too profound, too dangerous, or too disruptive. Still others argue that the MIB are neither protectors nor punishers, but parasitic entities that exist only to suppress, manipulate, and control. In this framework, they are drawn to moments when humans transcend their limitations through contact with extraterrestrials, spiritual awakenings, or forbidden knowledge, and appear to reassert control over the human mind and memory. Despite decades of investigation, no definitive answers have emerged, but the questions remain urgent. Why do they appear? Who do they serve? And why does the truth, whatever it is, require such terrifying suppression? Until these questions are answered, the Men in Black will remain one of the most haunting and unresolved mysteries of the modern age. Reports involving the Men in Black, MIB, consistently point to their use of technology that seems to defy the laws of physics and modern scientific understanding. Witness testimonies often describe their vehicles as sleek, black, and oddly outdated, sometimes resembling cars from the 1950s or 1960s. Even when the sightings occur in the modern day, despite their retro appearance, these vehicles behave in ways that appear impossible, moving silently without engines, executing right-angle turns at high speeds, disappearing in plain sight, or vanishing from locked or monitored locations with no logical explanation. In some cases, the cars are said to arrive and depart without ever using driveways, roads, or visible entry points, as if they materialize from another dimension. In conclusion, the Men in Black are not a fictional trope. They are a global phenomenon, appearing consistently over 70 plus years in eerily similar ways. Theories abound, but all converge on one truth. These beings are not ordinary, and they operate beyond our laws of reality. They haunt witnesses, silence truth seekers, and erase the evidence that might offer humanity a glimpse beyond the veil. Their actions suggest not only surveillance, but psychological warfare, spiritual corruption, and the deliberate suppression of contact between humans and whatever lies beyond. And that wraps up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this investigation thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we uncover more hidden truths from the shadows